The fog crept in like a thief, shrouding the crumbling town of Ravenswood in a damp, impenetrable mist. It was a night like any other, yet unlike any other, for in the hearts of the townsfolk, a sense of foreboding stirred. The kind of night when the shadows seemed to twist and writhe like living entities, and the wind whispered secrets in the darkness. In a small, cluttered shop on Raven's Peak, a lone figure huddled over a dusty, leather-bound tome. Emilia, the proprietor of curios and antiques, was a woman of unsettling appearance. Her long, silver hair a tumble of Medusa-like locks, her eyes aglow with an unnatural intensity. She pored over the ancient text, her bony fingers tracing the yellowed pages as if searching for a hidden truth. Outside, the mist deepened, tendrils curling around the shop's doorframe like skeletal fingers. The streets were empty, save for the occasional stray cat, its eyes glowing like embers as it prowled the deserted alleys. In the distance, the Ravenswood church bell tolled, its mournful clang echoing through the fog like a death knell. Emilia's eyes fluttered closed, her breath coming in short, rapid gasps as she read the final passage. The words seemed to sear themselves into her mind, a burning brand of knowledge that would forever alter the course of her existence. And when she opened her eyes once more, a look of unholy comprehension had settled upon her face, a look that would haunt the dreams of Ravenswood's slumbering residents. As she closed the tome, the flickering candles in the shop seemed to dance in response, their flames trembling with an otherworldly energy. Emilia's gaze drifted to the window, where the fog pressed against the glass like a living entity, tendrils curling about the panes like skeletal fingers. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the very fabric of Ravenswood was holding its breath in anticipation of some ancient, forgotten ritual. In the silence, a sound echoed through the fog, the whispered name Erebus. The word seemed to seep from the very walls themselves, a faint, gossamer thread that wove its way into Emilia's mind. Her eyes narrowed, her gaze falling upon a small, ornate box situated upon a dusty shelf. The wooden container, adorned with cryptic symbols, seemed to pulsate with a dark, malevolent power. Without hesitation, Emilia's bony fingers grasped the box, the wood creaking as the latch released. A faint, sulphurous scent wafted forth, carrying with it the promise of forbidden knowledge. As she lifted the lid, a puff of noxious smoke escaped, swirling about her like a dark, ethereal mist. In the heart of the fog, the church bell tolled once more, its resonance shivering through Ravenswood's deserted streets. The sound seemed to awaken something, a slumbering presence that lurked just beyond the veil of reality. Somewhere, in the depths of the fog, a faint, bestial howl responded, the cry of a creature that defied mortal comprehension. The howl was a thread of sound that weaved its way through the fog, drawing closer with each passing moment. Emilia's eyes gleamed with an unholy intensity as she peered into the box, her gaze absorbed by the swirling, sulphurous smoke. The whispers of Erebus grew louder, a chorus of forgotten voices that echoed through the chamber of her mind. As the howl drew nearer, the shadows within the shop began to writhe and twist, as if alive. The candles flared, their flames dancing like demented spirits as the air seemed to thicken, heavy with expectant terror. Emilia's lips curled into a macabre smile, her eyes aglow with an otherworldly power. In the heart of the fog, a figure began to take shape, a creature of unholy aspect, its form blurred by the swirling mist, its presence announced by the creaking of wooden signs and the rattling of shutters. The howl grew louder still, a deafening crescendo that shook the very foundations of Ravenswood. As the creature lurched into view, Emilia's eyes met its gaze, her own pupils blazing with an unholy light. The beast was a monstrosity of twisted, nightmarish proportions, its body a mass of writhing, pulsing tendrils, its eyes burning with an infernal green fire. For an eternal instant, the two locked gazes, their minds entwining in a forbidden dance of power and madness. The creature's gaze was a vortex of madness, a maelstrom of screaming souls and shattered dreams. Emilia's eyes, aglow with an otherworldly intensity, seemed to drink in the horror, her mind resonating with an eerie harmony. The air was heavy with the stench of brimstone and corruption, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling before the creature's presence. As the two locked gazes, the fog seemed to coalesce, taking on a life of its own. Tendrils of mist snaked through the shop, curling around the shelves and writhing like living serpents. The candles flared, their flames casting an eerie, hellish glow over the scene. The creature's howl reached a deafening crescendo, the sound shattering the windows and sending shards of glass tumbling to the floor. The noise was a living, pulsing entity, a sonic manifestation of the horror that lurked beyond the veil of sanity. Emilia's smile grew wider, her lips curling into a grotesque, inhuman grin. Her voice, barely audible over the din, whispered a single, terrible word, Erebus. The sound seemed to take on a life of its own, echoing through the fog-shrouded streets of Ravenswood, summoning forth an unholy legion of darkness. As the last echoes of the howl faded, the creature began to change. Its form blurred, the tendrils unwinding like a madman's puzzle, revealing a figure of unholy, human aspect. Eyes aglow with an infernal green fire, the creature took its first, shambling step into the shop, its presence igniting a maelstrom of madness that would soon consume all of Ravenswood. The creature's eyes, two burning coals of malevolence, locked onto Emilia, their gaze a tangible, crushing force that seemed to compress the air around her. Its face, a twisted mockery of humanity, was a visage of unspeakable horror, its skin a mass of suppurating sores and weeping lesions. As the creature lurched closer, its presence awakened a maelstrom of madness within the shop. The shelves erupted into chaos, artifacts and relics crashing to the floor as the very fabric of reality seemed to unravel. The air was heavy with the stench of corruption, a noxious miasma that clung to every surface like a palpable, living entity. Emilia, her eyes aglow with an unholy light, raised a hand, her bony fingers extending in a gesture of welcome. The creature, its gaze never wavering, took another shambling step forward, its presence drawing the fog into the shop like a dark, living mist. The candles, now mere flickers of flame, seemed to dance in response, their smoke curling around the creature like ethereal, winding sheets. The creature's presence was a living, pulsing thing, a vortex of darkness that drew all attention, all sanity, into its abyssal depths. As the fog swirled, a figure materialized at the window, its presence a mere shadow of the horror within. Dr. Thaddeus Wychwood, Ravenswood's esteemed scholar of the arcane, peered into the shop, his eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and terror. His gaze locked onto Emilia, and for an instant, their eyes seemed to hold a world of understanding, a pact of unholy knowledge shared between them. As Dr. Wychwood's gaze met Emilia's, a fleeting moment of comprehension flashed between them, a shared understanding of the eldritch horrors that lurked beyond the veil of sanity. The doctor's eyes, aglow with a mixture of fascination and terror, seemed to drink in the madness that surrounded him, his mind reeling with the implications of the unholy ritual unfolding before him. The creature, its presence a palpable, crushing force, took another step forward, its eyes never leaving Emilia's face. The air was heavy with anticipation, the very fabric of reality seeming to tremble on the brink of collapse. Emilia's voice, barely above a whisper, spoke a single, terrible word, Erebus. The sound seemed to shatter the last remnants of sanity, unleashing a maelstrom of madness that threatened to consume all of Ravenswood. As the creature's hot, rank breath washed over her, Emilia's eyes flashed with an unholy light, her gaze meeting Dr. Wychwood's with an unspoken challenge. The doctor, his face pale and clammy, seemed to nod in understanding, his eyes never leaving Emilia's as he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small, leather-bound tome. The book, adorned with cryptic symbols of forbidden knowledge, seemed to pulse with a dark, malevolent power, its presence drawing the fog into a tighter, more ominous spiral. As Dr. Wychwood opened the book, the pages rustling with an otherworldly energy, the very fabric of reality seemed to tear asunder, revealing a glimpse of the abyssal horrors that lurked beyond.